everyone. Today I have a neat little bit of news for you. There was a recent study out of the University of Bristol in the United Kingdom that analyzed the genetic data of land plants. The researchers were trying to unravel the genetic lineage of land plants, like their evolutionary origin, and the data that they collected from their study was pretty surprising. They found that land plants originated something close to 100 million years earlier than previously thought. The standard estimate for the origination of land plants was around 420 million years ago, based on the oldest fossils of land plants that have ever been discovered. However, the fossil record is a fickle thing. Mark Puttick was one of the authors of the study, and he summarizes this point by saying, and I quote, "The fossil record is too sparse and incomplete to be a reliable guide to date the origin of land plants." Unquote. So instead of using just the fossil record, they used a more sophisticated technique. Paddock says, and I quote, "Instead of relying on the fossil record alone, we used a molecular clock approach to compare differences in the makeup of genes of living species. These relative genetic differences were then converted into ages by using the fossil ages as a loose framework." Unquote. Now, if you've never heard of the molecular clock method, it's pretty interesting. The molecular clock method uses the regular rate of mutation to determine the time two lineages diverged. This is accomplished by analyzing the genomes of two related species and comparing their DNA. If they're closely related, most of the DNA will be similar, but some amount will have changed corresponding to the magnitude of their divergence. The researchers calibrated the molecular clock with the estimated ages of plant fossils and their relative position in the massive family tree of Embryophyta and Tracheophyta. Another author of the study is Dr. Jennifer Morris, who explained the ecological importance of the emergence of land plants. Dr. Jennifer Morris said, and I quote, "The global spread of plants and their adaptations to life on land led to an increase in continental weathering rates that ultimately resulted in a dramatic decrease in the levels of the greenhouse gas carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and global cooling." Unquote. This is important to understand because the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere can be reflected in the Earth's geology, in the glaciology. You can detect this kind of stuff with ice cores that you would find in like a Greenland or an Antarctic glacier. Dr. Morris said, and I quote, "Previous attempts to model these changes in the atmosphere have accepted the plant fossil record at face value. Our research shows that these fossil ages underestimate the origins of land plants, and so these models need to be revised." Unquote. Their new estimate pushes back the origin of land plants to almost 500 million years ago, to sometime in the Cambrian era, and the rise of primitive vascular plants around the Ordovician and the Silurian periods. The researchers conclude their abstract by saying, quote, "This timescale implies an early establishment of terrestrial ecosystems by land plants that is in close accord with recent estimates for the origin of terrestrial animal lineages. Biogeochemical models that are constrained by the fossil record of early land plants, or attempt to explain their impact, must consider the implications of a much earlier Middle Cambrian, early Ordovician origin." Unquote.